Welcome back to The Explainer. Today, we're throwing two completely different philosophies for securing your DNS queries into the ring, head to head. I mean, if you've ever found yourself wondering how your devices actually look up websites behind the scenes, and let's be honest, who exactly might be snooping on those lookups, you are definitely in the right place. We're going to be looking at DNS over HTTPS, commonly known as DOH, and DNS over TLS, or DoT. Two protocols, exact same goal, but man, they take vastly different approaches to get there. So the fundamental question we're tackling is this. Is it better to completely disguise your web traffic or proudly secure it on a dedicated, highly recognizable channel? Think about it like you're carrying a locked briefcase full of secrets. Do you walk right down the main street, holding it up for everyone to see that it's impenetrable? Or do you hide that briefcase inside a normal, boring-looking grocery bag so no one even suspects you're carrying it? That's the exact dilemma we're unpacking today. All right, let's dive right in. To really get this, we need to quickly remember what both of these protocols are actually trying to fix. Traditional DNS, it's sent completely in plain text over UDP port 53. It is literally like sending a postcard through the mail. Anyone sitting on your network path, your Wi-Fi provider, your ISP, or just some random bad actor at the local coffee shop, they can just read it. And worse, they can easily tamper with it. Both DOT and DOSH solve this shared starting problem, but, they go about it in completely opposite ways. Let's start with that locked briefcase approach we talked about. DoT takes a super direct route. It initiates a full TLS handshake, so certificate validation, encryption negotiation, the whole 9 yards, before a single drop of DNS data even travels across the wire. It doesn't try to hide the fact that it's DNS traffic at all. It just makes absolutely sure that nobody can actually read what you're asking for. It's this beautifully simple, highly secure, and frankly, unapologetic way to lock down your queries. And DOT achieves that bold directness by operating on its very own dedicated port, TCP 853. This means there is absolutely nothing hidden about what this traffic is. Any router, any firewall looking at the network knows instantly, yep, that's encrypted DNS traffic. It completely stands out from the crowd, just proudly cruising in its own dedicated lane on the information superhighway. But then we have DOH, which we actually explored in our last explainer. In complete contrast, DOH takes the disguise approach. The goal here is to make your DNS requests totally indistinguishable from your normal web browsing. So instead of creating a shiny new lane, it takes your encrypted DNS query and just shoves it into the exact same vehicle used for everyday web traffic. The query itself is just as encrypted and bulletproof as DOT's, but the packaging, completely different. It pulls off this stealth mode by sharing port 443 with standard HTTPS traffic, perfectly blending your queries directly into the crowd. To any outside observer, a DO query doesn't look like a DNS lookup at all. Honestly, it just looks like you're loading a web page, watching a video stream, or refreshing an app on your phone. It is basically the ultimate camouflage. Moving on to Section 1, Core Differences. DOT versus DOH architecture. Let's put these two protocols in a side-by-side showdown to map out what this actually means for your privacy and your network control. Now, if you only take away one single thing from this entire explainer, let it be this breakdown. Because DOT uses that dedicated 853 port, it is remarkably easy to block. A restrictive network admin can literally just say, nope, no port 853 traffic allowed, and DOT is instantly dead in the water. But DOSH, it uses port 443. If a network administrator, or say a national censor, wants to block DOSH, they risk blocking regular HTTPS traffic. They'd essentially be taking down the entire modern web just to stop your DNS. That is exactly why DOT is so loved by enterprise networks for its predictability, while DOSH is heavily favored at the browser level for censorship resistance. So the crucial takeaway here is that this core difference in philosophy dictates exactly what kind of adversary you're successfully defending against. Are you just trying to stop casual snooping on your home network? Well, DOT is fantastic for that. But are you trying to communicate out of a highly restrictive environment that is actively hostile to private DNS? In that case, you absolutely need the disguise that DOT provides. DOT encrypts, but DOTH encrypts and disguises. Which brings us to Section 2, the VPN-specific irony. Let's explore some really unexpected trade-offs that directly impact network administrators and VPN users who are just trying to secure their setups.
Here's where it gets kind of funny. Because DH blends in so perfectly, you can't easily force it through a VPN tunnel or a firewall without blindly catching all of your regular web traffic along with it. If you want to write a strict rule that says, hey, all DNS must go through my secure VPN tunnel, Well, DOH makes that a total nightmare. Since it looks just like normal web traffic, there is no clean, simple way to selectively route it or block it. Its absolute greatest strength, blending in, literally becomes its greatest headache for network management.
But, conversely, this exact vulnerability builds a massive case for the other side. DoT's greatest weakness, its high visibility, is an auditor's greatest strength. Because it uses that fixed, highly identifiable port, it is exceptionally clean and simple to route, audit, and write strict firewall rules for. You can easily tell your router, take all traffic on port 853, force it through the VPN, and absolutely block any attempts to bypass it. It's an absolute dream for network administration.
Let's jump to Section 3, DoT in practice. You might be wondering where you'll actually encounter this direct approach out in the wild today.
Well, DoT is not just some theoretical concept. It's practically everywhere. It's already baked right into Android as private DNS. If you go to your phone settings right now and point it to a server like 1.1.1.1, you are using DoT. It's natively supported on Linux through systemd resolved, and if you're a network enthusiast running an OPN Sense lab, you can easily capture it on port 853 in Wireshark. It just sits there, clearly flagged, totally distinct from the messy sea of standard web data.
And that brings us to our final point in Section 4, the same trust model. Because, let's face it, in cybersecurity, there is absolutely no free lunch. To keep our analysis honest, we have to recognize a very familiar pattern regarding who we are actually trusting here.
Just like DOH, DoT does not magically eliminate the trust problem. It simply relocates the absolute visibility of your queries from your local ISP directly to whichever resolver you choose to point to. Your local coffee shop or internet provider? Sure, they can no longer see what websites you're looking up. But Cloudflare, Google, Quad9, or your self-hosted resolver, they now see absolutely everything. The privacy isn't absolute, guys. You've really just chosen to shift your trust over to a totally different entity. So that begs the question, are we fully invisible yet? You've encrypted your DNS, you've either locked the door with DoT, or you've perfectly blended into the crowd with DOH. But is your browsing activity finally completely private? If someone is watching your network connection right this second, are they completely in the dark?
Well, no. The harsh reality is that neither of these protocols protects the SNI field in your TLS handshake. This means anyone watching still sees the exact plain text name of the site you're connecting to. Even though your initial DNS lookup asking for the IP address was perfectly encrypted, the very moment you actually go to connect to that IP, your browser essentially waves a little plain text flag that says, "Hello, I'm connecting to this specific website right now." Both DOH and DoT leave this massive lingering loophole completely untouched. So how do we lock down that final plain text leak? This glowing vulnerability leads us directly to the holy grail of connection privacy, encrypted client hello, which we are absolutely going to unravel in our next explainer. Until we can encrypt that initial hello, our elaborate disguise is still fundamentally flawed. So what happens when we finally figure out how to lock down that last vulnerability? And more importantly, what forces might try to stop us from doing it? We'll dive into all of that next time.